Hello, welcome to What Am I Doing, the Dungeons & Dragons podcast where one experienced dungeon master and one failed scriptwriter discuss D&D topics. My name is Kinsey, and my ridiculously inadequate pod partner is Lewis McCaffery. Once again, I struggled to say that.
Oh, I was really hoping you would fail, I'm sorry.
I thought today we could do something a little bit different before we start the episode.
Okay.
We could possibly be each other.
Oh, okay. Are we going to make out?
Yeah.
No, yeah.
So I always wanted to make out of myself. I practice in the mirror, but only once it's steamed.
Oh, no.
What's your ideal job?
My ideal job? I really don't know. Even, you know what, in the spirit of D&D, it'd be fun to be a full-time dungeon master, I suppose.
Full-time? Alright, yeah. So when you said in the spirit of D&D, if we could be like, I'd be a bard, or a tavern keeper, or a knight, or...
You know what about a king?
What did you want to... A king, there we go. Yeah. What did you want to be when you were younger?
I always... I was going to say
an adult.
Yeah.
Dead. Dead.
Yep, that's it. No, I always wanted to be an actor, actually.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, right, so the last message in the previous episode is quite funny that coming out as an actor is...
Yeah, really got to me.
It's because I read your diary.
Yep. Oh, no. Not again. That's why I ran out crying after we finished.
Poor conduct. Poor conduct, what I read.
Yeah, well, I'm
for a northerner. Poor conduct.
I'm not that good with words, alright?
Well, you haven't asked me, and that's rude.
Okay. What did you want to be?
I wanted to be Optimus Prime when I grew up. Not as bad as my sister, who wanted to be a snowman, the dumb bitch. I know it's England, but it is sunny at some point. Maybe she wanted to be dead. Maybe that was her 6-year-old way of saying.
I'm sorry. If you were Optimus Prime, I'd just follow you around doing that video going,
Oh, well, if you haven't gathered yet, today we're talking about jobs.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm fucking me. We're talking about roleplay.
Oh, fuck's sake.
Let's get to it. So today's episode is roleplay. Does bad RP affect the situation? Does RP mean roleplay? What happens when a player doesn't RP? And if it is beneficial to roleplay, what does that look like? Lewis.
Yes.
Leaving a moment for attention.
Okay.
I tried to encourage roleplay at home with the family, but apparently mannequins in lubed leather do not make for a Christian experience. What am I doing?
What?
Answer that.
You know what?
My family are lubed, Lewis.
They are lubed mannequins. I mean, it's more than what I've got. It's all right. You know what? That sounds like a really good Monopoly night. That.
Yes.
Because no one else will win if they're just lubed up mannequins.
And you won't want to take money from people when it's wet. You know, the paper...
See, that's where you're wrong.
Yeah.
I prefer it wet.
So wrong.
No, what you do in that situation, like I said, you arrange a family mannequin lubed Monopoly night, and then when you go in for a hug at the end of the match after you've won and they're all sad, give them all a hug, and because they're lubed up, they just squeeze out your arms and go flying out the windows to crush down your sister's snowman and Optimus Prime.
This is going to be a long podcast episode. Right, first question.
Thank you.
Are alignments crucial to roleplay? Now, don't go too in-depth to alignments itself, because at some point we will cover that, because we haven't got much to cover, to be honest. But are they crucial to roleplay?
Sometimes.
Sometimes? Yep. Okay.
I'm not going
defending
to...
himself is shit playing player ability.
Wow, hey, I'm not the one here, but we'll get a guest on if you want to talk about that shit. No, I think, yes, I'll say they are, because it depends on what your alignment is. I mean, everyone knows that the chaotic neutral, let's start there, is the arsehole, or the stupid fucking dickhead.
Yeah, the stupid fucking dickhead.
That is that. That's the one where roleplay is probably, I think the closer you get to neutral, the more loose.
It's a safe bet.
Yeah.
It's a safe bet.
Yeah, the looser you can be.
It's the Switzerland of alignments.
Exactly. But it's like, let's say if you play lawful good, like my character in your campaign, if I started role-playing just punching people in the face or just screaming at every person for no reason. It'd be a bit... A lot of people would say, oh, that's just what my character does. But it's, in my eyes, it's a bit of shit roleplay. I think
it's arsehole pass.
Yeah. Your alignment definitely... I think that decides or determines how good or bad, obviously, your character can act, and you, with the roleplay, will fill in the gaps. You'll, like, give that guidance life, if that makes sense.
I think a lot of people will pick an alignment to get away with things, but almost forget that they are playing a living being.
Yeah.
Like, you could be Hitler, but you're not going around just randomly punching people, are you? You're still, you're methodically doing something, because it would be very odd to just go around punching people. But apparently, if you're just called evil, you just do that. You just forget.
Or it's like, imagine being neutral, and then when told you can't have a ceremonial greatsword, that you just spend an entire session trying to steal it. And yes, players in our Black Shores campaign, I hope you're fucking listening.
Morgan.
Oh wow.
All right, well, we'll go on to the next one before he sees us.
Yep.
Is it bad to band players together who all share the same goal? Now, I know that's kind of a bit of an alignment question again, but I think what people, when they're building their character, they kind of need to kind of shape this as well into their role play, right? If you just play the same kind of character every time, regardless of race, class, their backstory, but you were just the same thing, you've kind of like missed the boat on what the whole point of D&D is, I think,
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad thing to... If you have a party where they're all similar characters and they all have the same goal, there's nothing wrong with that. I think it could potentially... I don't even think it could get boring, because it's like... I don't think there's anything wrong with it, no. I think as long as the players themselves are enjoying it, the DM's enjoying it, then great. It's difficult to answer in terms of roleplay, because that's very much is determined by the quality of the roleplay, or not even that, how willing they are to roleplay, because you can be the worst person at RP and D&D but still have a good time, and the players you play with will still have a good time because you're trying. It's true. The people that don't give it anything or don't even try. Yeah. So I think even if the goals are the same, or even if they're wildly different, either way, it doesn't determine if it's going to work out or if it isn't. Okay, we'll get more in depth in that. In a bit. Okay. Is there a space for roleplay outside of sessions? Now, on servers, on a West Marches server, for instance, you can have RP chats and channels, and people can be doing downtime stuff, right? But is there a possibility in any other way to be doing this, or have I just covered it all by accident in the question? Maybe a little bit. Yeah. No, I think. Even in campaigns, you could even have a text chat. As long as the DM's willing, the players could talk between each other in character there. And if an NPC or the DM, narration is required, they can message in. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but I don't think it's necessary. It's down to the group. Yeah. What works for them? When can they meet up? Is there too much time between sessions? Exactly. Is this like a middle ground, I think it's always good to make sure that you have roleplay, whether it's inside or outside a session. If it's not inside of session and you have no roleplay, I definitely think that something should be arranged for it. Yeah. Even if it's a one-off session where it's just you sign a tavern role-playing. I think it's good and it's needed, because you need to fully understand your character, and you need to... I think, for me anyway, one of the best things about D&D is being your character. Yeah, playing something else and really going to the lengths to make that, flesh it out. It sounds self-explanatory with what D&D is. But people don't. Exactly. If you have a group of, like our party of 4 at the moment, each character is different. We all have our own beliefs, we all have our own goals and history, and we're just obviously pretending to be them. But in doing so, we're working well together, even though mine's lawful good and we have a lawful evil player. You're sticking with each other for a certain reason, and that only is benefited by roleplay. Exactly, yeah. Actually, if you were just on this, then you guys, I'd just be DMing for 2 different groups. Exactly. But you make it work on purpose, But like I said, that's not to say that outside of session roleplay is needed. But okay, no harm in it. We'll get into the other one, because you're going to be here a while. I'm going off taxi to get you there. This question is actually our first Spotify Q&A response from a Miss Postle. Okay. Who has begged me to hide her address at 147 Tom Hanks Avenue. I really thought you were going to say that. She asked, as a DM, how do you help to encourage first-time players engage with RP without forcing it,
And before you answer, I'd just like to state that this is literally our 14th podcast, and Miss Postle asked a question that's strong. It carries validity, and genuinely, I'm a little embarrassed. I'm asking questions every week that are so subpar. Milk deficient, if you will, in comparison to Miss Postle's question.
Well, yeah.
So how do you encourage...
Yeah.
How do you encourage it?
There's a number of ways you can do it, I think. Starting off simple, I think the best way to encourage roleplay is just to encourage a person to get involved outside of the character, if that makes sense. So if the players are deciding to do something and they, let's say a new player is staying quiet, when everything if everything goes quiet, ask that person, say, are you happy with this plan? Do you have any ideas? That kind of thing. Because things like that will start to encourage that player to get involved more. And,
to have a response.
Yeah, and it allows that player to be heard, and the more a player's heard and feels like they're involved, the more they'll want to be involved. They'll want to continue that. So I think that's the first thing that you can do.
Yeah.
But specifically in terms of roleplay, let's say if you are in a tavern and everyone's talking, but that person is specifically being a bit more on the quiet side, and when they're role-playing, they are being very straight to the point of narrating what their character's doing. So, my character's going to stand up and say this to that person, rather than actually being involved. What you could do is have an NPC come over, friendly or otherwise.
Engage with them.
Engage with everyone, and then not necessarily single that person out, but start with that character.
Yeah.
And even just a simple, like, it's okay to give players suggestions while you go in, saying, okay, this is going to be a conversation, you don't need to tell me you're saying it, just back and forth. And if you start that and they respond, and even little things like that, I think can help a new player understand, or even get to terms with how roleplay generally is done in D&D, but also find what they are comfortable with. How would you do it? How would you try and encourage, or...
No, I think I would single them out.
Okay, yeah.
Because the other players are already doing something with a group of people. They're probably chatting to each other, trying to cause a fight, play like liar's dice or buy a drink. And obviously as the DM, you're going to be responding to that.
Yeah.
But then having someone come over, or even the tavern keeper, then go, well, what are you having? And just then bringing them in. I don't think it's a bad thing that they are aware that you're doing it.
Yeah.
If anything, it looks like you're a good listener. And not because they're not talking, right? Yeah. You're a good listener in the sense that you are very aware that they're not saying something and they might want to, or they're just not, they're unsure of how to do it and they're anxious. So bringing them into it.
100%.
Kind of the question is, without forcing it, I think that's a very nice way of forcing it, because it just shows that people care, rather than going, what are you doing?
I think that very much depends on the dungeon master, because I've been in campaigns before with friends of mine who were brand new to Dungeons and Dragons, and the DM of these campaigns, or this campaign, either completely ignored this new player when they tried to get involved, and it was a shy person anyway, or just shut down their attempt at roleplay by saying, that don't make sense, your character wouldn't do that. And it's like, I think
it's your job to try and make that work.
It's just being understanding that new players need a bit of help, and don't be one of those assholes who just like gatekeeps everything. Just let people enjoy it and help them, otherwise they're never gonna continue.
I think another good thing as well, and we do this, I've been in sessions where people have DM'd for me, and I try to do it quite a bit, even with players who are very confident in what they're doing, is try to have moments, or even entire sessions, where there is a class that can really shine. For instance, like a rogue is very useful, but it's not always useful, and so to create sessions where their skills can really shine outside of combat,
100%.
that role play really works for them. And it's not as simple as role play as like a conversation, but
if it's a stealth mission,
it causes the other players to talk to them and ask them how they're going to go about it, because they're a tool at that point. They got to be utilised, and that's really useful.
In every party, everyone should feel like their character is needed and their character has something to offer. So to do that every now and then, and like cycle it round so that everyone has their turn, at least doing something beneficial and showing to the rest of the group that, okay, their characters do need to stay with my character, like I have something to offer. I feel like that's
it's
great.
A team game, so it needs to feel like that. And also, we could all pick to just be a fighter, and that would only go well for so long. But the DM should be taken into account, like what your classes are, your backstory and stuff. And even when it comes to combat, ignoring roleplay for a second, the DM should be looking at the type of enemies you come across based on what you are, right? So people picking their own classes and then maybe not getting involved in roleplay, kind of like shaping sessions to fit those players who might be a little bit quieter.
Yeah.
Covers everything. It covers the enemies they could possibly come across against, the interactions they have with people in the world, how much the players will talk to them. So I think that's the way to go about it, is actually not so much on the player. You can only encourage someone so much.
Yeah.
But the DM really shaping the sessions to...
Yeah.
You don't want it to feel like so the other players go, well, there's no point me being here.
No,
but
exactly.
That's like much more... I don't even know what the word is. I'm probably going to have to scrap this. It's harder said than done. That's not the word, but the phrase. But to make it singular, to single people out is quite hard in D&D.
Yeah.
So I don't think anyone would have an issue with you going, this is a stealth mission, guys.
No, no, exactly.
Oh, this one will require someone with a high intelligence, or this is just brute strength to get through this passageway.
Exactly. Yeah, even if it's not like a full session, if it's one moment where the rest of the party will turn around and be like, right, we need you to do this. Even little bits like that, it really helps. Obviously, your character feel valued, but also you as a player, like you are contributing to the game, which I think is really nice for everyone.
Thanks, Miss Puzzle, for that question.
Thank you very much.
Only important question we've ever answered
genuinely
on this podcast. It clearly just
all I have ever been asked.
Yeah, so. Someone just with some kind of intelligence to ask us something really helps us go a long way. Last question then. Ideal roleplay scenario as a player.
Oh, as a player, I think it depends. I mean, for me, my favourite, which I've only been able to be in as a player once or twice, partly because the situations have never arisen.
You're always DMing.
Or I'm always DMing, yeah. It's the curse. But I love big roleplay moments where parts of my character's backstory, or even just what we've been through, comes to fruition. If my character, almost every character in D&D has some level of trauma in their backstory, and when you play your character for quite a while to the point where you know how they'd react to most things, and then you just get slapped in the face with something traumatic from your backstory and something you have to deal with there and then, I think it can be such a good moment to feel real emotion, not just for your character, but
it's a reminder of you mean something. You could be replaced with any other player, but the fact that something actually really involves something of your past before the D&D campaign even existed highlights how important it is to us as players to be there. You know?
And I think
we feel a part of it.
Yeah, and I think everyone who properly gets involved with the character and their backstory knows the emotion that can come behind these things. Like I can get so emotionally invested in things like this. So if I and I'm saying this behind gritted teeth at the moment with you smiling about your campaign, but yeah, I get
stand a chance.
Oh shit! Yeah, if I'm faced with stuff like that, it will really make me emotional as well. Yeah, through my character, which those moments I love, but as an honourable mention, and I feel like you're going to say this, I love the roleplay moments where your party is fighting between each other, trying to
They're my favourite. That's my favourite roleplay, definitely. Just getting people to compete with each other when they've got bigger problems. But, the little things are the things that get us in real life, and it all amounts up to feel big. And so when you can get players doing that with each other based on what their character would do, and that's good roleplay, where they're really all tense. Because, as real people sitting there at the table, they're like, I wouldn't do this, but my character would. And you're and as a DM, you're like, I'm so glad that you've committed to this to the point that you're uncomfortable with what you're doing, but you've got to do it, and against your own friend. It's just
painful.
Top roleplay.
Oh yeah. If it's, I think it can be ruined, stuff like that, if it's something minor. Let's say if you're stealing from a shop and then you're all disagreeing about it. It's not as fun, but it's like in I keep promoting the Black shows here, but with that moment with my character and who's a lawful good paladin and the lawful evil fighter, when he was bounding over to kill a woman in this town who he knew was a werewolf, but I didn't know, so I had to defend her. I almost ended up fighting him. That was a good moment. It was very, very intense.
You want people to feel like they're a part of it, and it's not just the game says 2 to 6 players and I'm just one of them, you want to feel like without you they couldn't be playing it.
Exactly. And I think again it feels so much better when you dive into roleplay because it makes your character come alive. And you can develop real attachments to these.
I think another thing, maybe just to add, and we'll probably do a session on an entire episode on this anyway at some point. Oh, do you know what? Forcing people, and I know the question was without forcing, forcing people to have a backstory makes them already think about the character beyond this kind of generated male-female figure, you know, and that they've got to go, well, this is actually how I play it based on this, rather than I just appear and I am.
I do think some level of a backstory is needed. Yeah. I know we spoke about this, I think, in the first episode, like with Luke Skywalker having pretty much no backstory and then just called to adventure. You don't need something amazing, but I think it's good to have something.
Just for yourself.
Yeah. Just so you know how to play it.
That in itself, in that sense, you've encouraged yourself to start role-playing.
Yeah.
Because you've got something to say, something to keep to yourself. A secret is always really good. They do that with actors, with directors of actors. There's always that, here's a secret for you. Yeah. It's only for yourself. So when you go around talking to people in scenarios...
That's in the back of your mind.
It's in the back of your mind. It's something that you don't give everything straight away, you know?
I think it forms an immediate connection as well with the character.
Yeah.
Because if you're just playing... It's like if you're playing a video game of a character and you know nothing about it. It's like you're just running through the world.
It doesn't matter. It just exists.
If you watch a cutscene or like if you export a character from a previous game, then you already have some grounding, some level of understanding.
You've got a connection there and you're tied to it a bit more.
Exactly.
Yeah. So do it for yourselves, guys. Yeah. Just sit there, eat, love, pray, read a book, write your dreams from the night before, attach them to your new character.
Stop relying on snowmen and Optimus Prime. I think was that from the last episode or this one? I'm getting confused now.
This one.
Oh.
This one, roleplay.
I'm losing track of days.
Okay. So, today's adventure is sadly coming to a close. We are back again next week with a topic, is the furniture in your house getting smaller? And as always, thank you for tuning in, and if you'd like to join in on the D&D action or just support the show, then please head over to our server Patreon, Adventures in Alandra, which can also be found in today's podcast description, and join us on Instagram and Twitter at WhatAmID&D. I've been Connor Kinsey.
I've been Lewis McCaffery.
Good day.
Goodbye.